All right, guys, today what we're going to learn about is reflexive verbs, or los verbos reflexivos. Okay, these are a little bit different than regular verbs, and we're going to switch back to the present tense now. All right, but let's take a look at what these are. Okay, so what are reflexive verbs? In Spanish, all reflexive verbs are expressed with a reflexive pronoun. Okay, you're going to use reflexive verbs when the subject, which is the person doing the action, is the direct object, the person receiving the action. So basically, you're going to use reflexive verbs when someone does something to themselves. So if I do it to me, I'm doing it to myself, I'm going to have to use a reflexive pronoun to demonstrate, to show that is happening. Okay? Also, in the infinitive form of the reflexive verbs, the reflexive pronoun attaches to the end. So, for example, we have this verb bañarse. So the pronoun is the word se. It attaches to the end of it, but you still have a regular infinitive. So it still ends in AR, like you can see here, bañar. Okay? First, we're going to start looking at the pronouns and what those look like. They look very similar to direct and indirect object pronouns in 4 of the sections. Okay, so let's take a look. We've got our famous chart here. We're going to start with the yo form. This one looks very similar to the direct and indirect object pronouns. And the yo form is me. The to form is te. Now, the ella usted form changes to se. Okay, so this is not Lola, this is not lace, or lay, I'm sorry. It is just say, and it doesn't matter what gender it is, it's always going to be say. Okay, the nosotros form is nos, vosotros pronoun is os, so those look very similar to our direct and indirect object pronouns. And then we have our other pronoun for ellos, ellas, and ustedes, which is se. Okay, so these are your 6 reflexive pronouns. In addition to making the verb match the subject, you also need to have the pronoun match the subject. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. Chart. And with another famous verb already, which is bañarse. Okay, so again, we have our chart. First step is take off the se from the infinitive. Okay? Now, when you take off the se, you're left with the verb bañar. We're going to discuss how to conjugate that in just a second, okay? But in order to look at the pronouns first and how they fit with the noun or fit with the subject, let's do that, and we're also going to look at the verb and where it all goes, okay? So first of all, we have our pronouns. So again, we have the yo, me, tu, te, él, se, nosotros, nos, vosotros, os, and ellos, se. So those actually will go in front of the conjugated verb. In this case, we are left with the verb bañar without the se on the end. Okay? So what's going to happen is you're going to take the AR off and conjugate normally. Okay? So, bañar in the yo form is baño. Yes, just like bathroom, but it doesn't mean that. Baño, I bathe. Okay? The to form is bañas. Ella usted form is baña. Nosotros form, bañamos. Vosotros, bañáis. And ellos, ellas, ustedes, bañan. Okay? So, quick reminder that the reflexive pronouns will go in front of the conjugated verb. Okay? Will not go behind it. You won't attach it to it. Nothing like that. They have to go in front of the conjugated verb. If you're going to make this negative, the sentence negative, or you're going to make the verb negative. So instead of I bathe myself, so yo me baño, you would say no me baño. Yo no me baño. Put the no right in front of that me. Okay? All right, what we're going to do now is look at bañarse in the preterite. Okay? So we have our famous chart, of course. First thing we do is take off the se, and then we put our pronouns in our chart, okay? So, yo, me, tu, te, etc. Then, since bañar is an AR verb, we're going to take the AR off, and then add our endings for each one of the forms. Okay, so the yo form is yo me bañé. Tu te bañaste. Él se bañó. Nosotros nos bañamos. vosotros os bañasteis, and ellos, ellas, ustedes se bañaron. Okay? So, notice again, reflexive pronouns go in front of the conjugated verb. All right? All right, so when a reflexive verb is conjugated in the present progressive tense, you can place the pronoun in two different places. You can attach the pronoun to the end of the present participle, which is the ando or yendo. So, estás bañándote, okay? Are you bathing yourself? So notice that the te is at the end of the ando, okay? You can also place the pronoun before the conjugated form of the star. So you can say, me estoy bañando, I am bathing myself, okay? Few other things. When a reflexive verb follows a conjugated verb, you're going to use the correct pronoun with the infinitive that matches the subject. So what does that mean? All right, let's take a look. You'd attach the pronoun to the infinitive, okay? ¿A qué hora quieres despertarte? Since we know that quieres with an es on the end is in the to form, we have to use te in order to match you. Okay, so what time do you want to wake yourself up? Okay. You can also place the pronoun before the conjugated verb. So just like we did with our direct and indirect object pronouns, you can place it before the conjugated verb. So we have me quiero despertar a las 7. So I want to wake myself up at 7. When we have quiero, you can see that that ends in an O. Therefore, that is in the yo form. So we have to use the reflexive pronoun me to match the yo form of the verb. Okay, match that subject, I. Right? All right, guys, here's one other thing about reflexive verbs. So, some verbs are not always reflexive, okay? Now, let's look at this example. So I have yo despierto a Celia a las 7. I wake up Celia at 7. Since I'm doing this to someone else, a Celia, you do not need to put a reflexive pronoun before despierto. Okay, so I'm not waking myself up, I'm waking someone else up. Therefore, I am not the direct object, I am simply the subject. Okay? Well, let's take a look at this next sentence. We have yo me despierto a las 7. I wake myself up at 7. Okay? So, since I'm doing it to me, I'm doing it to myself, I am the direct object as well. I have to include that me, right? It is essential that I include that me, so that way I know that I'm talking about, I'm doing it to me and not doing it to someone else, okay? So, I hope this was very interesting and you had tons of fun learning about reflexive verbs. Be expecting your first brain note